Drew Sanders sitting on the edge of the roster with his position switch, ironically, to the edge position, as well as some pre-draft speculation because it is April, ladies and gentlemen, and the draft is literally right around the corner, less than 48 hours away as I record this video right now, or probably roughly 48 hours. It's like 7:30 as I record this on Tuesday night. Anyways, it's going to be a good episode tonight. We are going to do a lot of speculating. We'll talk about Drew Sanders. We'll talk about some of this pre-draft stuff that's going to be coming up and what I think that the Broncos could not only do on day 2, but what could happen even further into the draft. We're going to get into that and more on this episode of the Crushing It Podcast. Don't forget to like and sub. And with that being said, roll that motherfucking intro. Right, so let's start with the Drew Sanders thing. So he is, again, being swapped over to an edge rusher, which is... I don't know what to make of this at such a critical juncture in his career. Now, Sanders has been just incredibly bogged down by injuries in his time with the Denver Broncos. He was a part of all 17 games, played all 17 games in 2023, only played in 4 in 2024, and then missed the entire 2025 season. That's a big problem for a third-round pick, for a guy that's in that top 100 range. That's still a pretty decent investment, and he has only played 21 of a total possible 51 games since becoming a Denver Bronco. That's been a huge problem, and it's the old cliche of the best ability is availability, and Drew Sanders has simply not been available. Now, him swapping to the edge too is really interesting because he is going to be fighting an uphill battle to make this roster. There's no telling whether Denver carries 4 edge guys or not, and I don't know that they're going to be willing to part with a guy like Q Robinson right now. At best, he beats Q Robinson out for maybe the 4th edge spot, and Q gets onto the practice squad, although I don't think he would make it through waivers in that sort of situation. I think the Broncos like Q Robinson more than Drew Sanders. He is going to be fighting for his life. And really, when you really look at it too, because again, there's the possibility that Denver takes an edge in the draft that would hypothetically be his replacement. I don't think you're going to get any trade compensation for him unless somebody's willing to throw you a 5th in the preseason, which at that point is kind of a net loss with Drew Sanders. You spent the 3rd on him, barely got to see him on the field, and then you got to ship him away. But the thing is I don't think Sanders is going to be that guy. I don't think he's definitely not beating out Benito or Cooper for a starting spot. Tillman just got re-signed, that ERFA tender. God, that's a tongue twister. And then Q Robinson. The Broncos spent draft capital on that guy. Sanders is going to be fighting an uphill battle to make this roster, and now where Jonah Ellis is going to be getting snaps at inside linebacker, where Stranad is essentially... what's the word I'm looking for here? Cemented as the starter, and with Singleton likely going to get those LB2 duties, no matter how much we all malign him here. I don't think Drew Sanders is a Denver Bronco next season, and I don't think that's a bold statement at all. We have been joking for like the entirety of the year, or even just the off season, that, like, does this guy exist? I know I've been joking about whether or not he exists because we just have not heard shit about him. There was no mention of him during the season, really. After he got hurt, the story was that he was supposed to come back at some point, and then he never did. And then I think he got activated during the playoffs, not, like, for a game, but, like, was made eligible to come off the IR. The practice window got open. We never saw him even in the playoffs, and... We haven't seen Drew Sanders play football in damn near 2 years at this point. No preseason footage, nada, nothing. So essentially, this camp is probably going to be his tryout for every other team in the league, and what they choose to do with him, God only knows at that point, or the coaches, the GMs only know. But I just don't see a reality where Drew Sanders is a Denver Bronco come 2026, and I think that the swap to edge might just be more to give him a little more value because there really is nothing on him at that inside linebacker spot. he swapped from edge to inside linebacker from 23 to 24, got hurt 4 games in, and now, it's he's in the spot that I was in yesterday when I biffed my bike, all right? And that's all I'll leave it at. Long story short, I've been rambling on this subject for a good couple of minutes now. I just don't think Saunders is a Denver Bronco next year. I think the swap to edge is to give him a little more playing time during the preseason at a position that is, technically right now a little less competitive to make the roster, and there is the chance that Denver carries 5 edges next year, but you really genuinely have no idea. I don't really see a world where Saunders is a Denver Bronco. I don't. I think Q showed too many flashes. I think Dondre is too established as that rotational pass rusher, and he's a fan favorite, might I add. And then obviously Benito and Cooper. I don't see a world where Drew Saunders is in orange and blue next season. But with that being said, let's get into the fun part of the episode. The sad part about Drew Sanders is now out of the way. We're going to talk about what I think the Broncos might do on day 2, and then what I think they could do going forward. We'll talk about their picks, talk about really just what positions I think are going to be taken, not in a specific order. And yeah, with that being said, let's transit. I really need to get an editor for this type of shit, man. Good lord. This poorly edited transition was brought to you by me, because I don't make any money on this channel. And, you could help change that, but at the same time, it's such a niche channel. Anyways, let's get into all that fun draft stuff that I was just talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, the Broncos picks go as follows. The Broncos have 7 total selections in the 2026 NFL Draft. Pick 30 in the second round, which is pick 62. 2 picks in the fourth round. They've got 108 and 111, both in trades. 111 from the Dolphins in the Waddle trade, 108 from the Saints in the Devon Vele trade. Round 5, they've got pick 30 there, so 170, and then round 7, they've got 246, 256, which is one of their comp picks, and then 257, so back-to-back picks in the 7th round. Both of those are compensatory picks. I think I said that correctly. So it's going to be a slow day 1. I don't see a world where Denver drafts up into the first round to go get anyone. I don't think this is a draft class built for that. And you really don't see that from teams trading back into the first round unless they're going to get a quarterback. Well, the Broncos obviously don't need a goddamn quarterback now, do they? So, what does that mean? It means that while they are strapped, I think that this is a deep enough draft class at a number of positions that Denver doesn't need to panic. It is my thing. Now, do you maybe see them try to get into the 3rd round? We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. But what do I think that they are going to draft? Not particularly in order, but what positions could I realistically see Denver taking? We've talked about it all offseason. I think they're taking a running back at some point, and it's going to have to be one of these day 2 guys. Now, the running back class isn't super top-heavy. It's essentially Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price, and then there's a drop-off. You get Mike Washington, who put up just a ridiculous combine. He's a guy that's kind of projected to go in that kind of late 2nd, early 3rd sort of area. I don't know if he falls to day 4. Jonah Coleman's another guy that I've heard some buzz about. And then you've kind of got some later guys down the line as well. Katron Allen, Nicholas Singleton, both guys out of Penn State. The Notre Dame guys aren't the only guys that are coming from the same school. You know what I'm saying? I already brought up Jonah Coleman as well. Could be a guy that they look at. Seth McGowan, 6'0", 223. That's a bowling ball. I think if the Broncos do take a running back, not necessarily where they take one, I think that is a straight-up insurance policy for J.K. Dobbins. You are going to see them take a running back more than likely with a 1st and 2nd down skill set. They don't need to be the best receiver because that's not necessarily what they're doing on 1st and 2nd down. I do still think they want to figure out the 3rd down back thing. I've said my piece about Tyler Bidet on this channel before. I don't think he's that great of a 3rd down back. He does marginally pass block better than Jaleel McLaughlin, but neither guy really does that too well, and he did not really have the hands to justify a third down back roll. I think really what you're going to see is they are probably going to take, again, that J.K. Dobbins sort of role, and if they carry 4 running backs, they'll sit at 4 on the depth chart, likely behind J.K., Harvey, and Jaleel, just to get some time to develop. In the event that J.K. Dobbins goes down, though, I'd expect to see a little more of a role for him, especially what we know about J.K. Dobbins. Well, J.K. for sure, but also R.J. Harvey last year. And Harvey already has his role as that receiving back for the most part. He does get carries, just not a ton. I could also... Oh, damn it, I forgot to shut my notifications off. Anyways, we could also see them look at wide receiver. This is another thing that we've heard about, and they are not going to get any of these top-of-the-line guys, right? You can basically... And these are like kind of the lower first round, early second round talents, but like Casey Conception, kiss him goodbye, Brazel, Boston, Omar, and then maybe Chris Bell, but there is still some quality to be had here, and there was a certain guy that I was just reading up about here. I can't exactly remember. What I'm saying though is I'm not shocked if Denver takes a wide receiver at all. Not one bit. It's probably just going to be a little later in the draft. You got CJ Daniels out of Miami. Could fall to Denver sometime day 2, day 3. Deion Burks, another guy they could look at, although he would realistically kind of be your Marvin Mims kind of guy. But considering Marvin Mims is on a walk year, and we're not sure that he wants to be a Denver Bronco again, that's another guy that you could also see go. And you got to factor this into the wide receiver room as well. Franklin's going to be on in a contract year in 2027. Sutton's not getting any younger. And really the only guy that you have I mean longer than 2 years at this point is Jalen Waddle. And Pat Bryant, I want to see him do good, but I mean the concussion issues are obviously a massive concern. And do you want to do you want to trot Michael Bandy out as that wide receiver too? Worst case scenario? No. I think Denver takes a wide receiver. I don't know when they do it, but I feel like we live in a world where they're going to. Found the guy. Texas Tech. Caleb Douglas. 6'4", ran a 4.39 40. And everything I've read, he was one of the, big producers in that conference. I'm not a big college ball guy. Maybe I need to be next year, but you get the idea. I think Denver either takes a Sutton replacement for down the line, and that would be Caleb Douglas, essentially, with that frame. And maybe they look to take a Marvin Mims replacement at some point, although I think they look to try to retain Marvin somehow. Maybe he gets a more expanded role in the offense. You never know. I think they're taking wide receiver. I think they're taking tight end at some point. I think they're going to go kind of hard on the offense here. We'll talk about the obvious elephant in the room, okay? I'm not going to leave it, but we're just rolling here, okay? Tight end's another big one. If they want to go at 62, I think they end up with a guy. Really, it's going to be anyone other than Kenyon Sadiq. I don't necessarily know what they're looking for right now, though. Are they looking for more of an F-type guy? If so, that's Caleb Stout, or Eli Stowers, excuse me. Max Clare is a guy that can kind of play inline, F-type. Sam Roush out of Stanford, Michael Trigg, Justin Jolie is a guy that you could probably get round 4, and you've got 2 of those picks. Maybe you package those, trade up to the 3rd if a guy you like falls. Who knows? Later on, though, you could snag an Eli Raridan, a Marlon Klein. There's not a ton of tight ends in this draft class, to be honest. And then if you really, really want to wait about it, too, there are guys later here down the board, although I don't know how excited you are to take any of them. I think it's a very top-heavy tight end class here. We're also going to look at offensive line. I would not be shocked to see Denver taking an offensive, specifically an offensive tackle, because Bulls ain't getting any younger. McGlinchey's not getting any younger, and I don't think Frank Crum is the long-term answer at either of those tackle spots. So who does that kind of leave him here? If they want to go early, maybe they get a Caleb Lomu, although we could see multiple of these tackles go kind of in the early goings of the draft. I don't know if Lomu's going to fall that far. I cannot say this man's name for my life. Max Eichenacker. I just butchered the fuck out of that. I apologize, Max. But an Arizona State guy, 321, 6'6", ran a 4.91. That guy is an athletic freak, and maybe he's a guy that Denver could luck into at 62, or maybe he falls to the third. Skill positions are a premium. Nobody thinks about offensive line. It's just how it goes. It is just how it goes. Again, though, could end up with a guy like Jude Bowery later down the board, or if they like it, maybe a Drew Shelton, Austin Barber, guys like that. Markel Bell as well, 346, 6'9". That guy's a monster. Okay, you get the point. Denver is likely in the next two drafts going to be drafting replacements for Garrett Bowles and Mike McGlinchey. It's just how this is probably going to go. Defensively, obviously, and you can kind of tie the start of the episode back to where we are now. 100% you can tie the start of the episode. They're taking an inside linebacker. I don't think there is any sort of debate that they are taking an inside linebacker. Probably going to be, and I imagine maybe they address this at 62, although, God knows what we're actually going to see. I've consistently, linked Anthony Hill or Jacob Rodriguez. But you could see them go get a guy like Jake Golday out of Cincinnati, another guy that I've heard pretty highly about. Kyle Lewis, I talked to him while I was talking to Kodiak the other day. He's pretty high on Kyle Lewis. And then some other down-the-board guys as well. Harold Perkins Jr. could be a guy that Denver looks at. Even later down the draft, could look at a Longhorn, Trey Moore. Guys like that, although I don't know if he's actually an inside. No, he is an edge. I should not have said him. Could go get a Justin Jefferson out of Bama. And that would be much later on. Could go get Lander Barton as well. Those are some very, very down-the-board prospects. And then I could see them going for safety. I think Kodiak said this as well. He said that he almost guarantees Denver takes a safety at some point. His logic makes sense. Jones is on an expiring contract, and then after that, outside of Huff, you have to figure out that other side of the board, and I definitely think that you're going to need competition for Devin Key and JL Skinner, 100%. Brandon Jones is probably going to play out this year if Denver re-signs him. Okay, cool. Now you're suddenly not worried about it, but right now, there's certainly a world where Denver drafts a safety to try to groom for a little bit while they try to figure out who's going to be that backup guy, especially after the loss of PJ Locke. I know we're rambling here. I know we're kind of doing this all in one take, but stay with me here. I alluded to the fact that we would we'll talk about how Denver maybe gets a third-round pick. I mean, listen, we are in a world right now where Jahdae Barron's going to be hurting for playing time, okay? And I floated the idea already. But realistically, Riley Moss is going to be on an expiring contract. How much money is Riley Moss going to ask for after playing as well as he has as a corner two? There will be teams that are going to shill out a shitload of money to bring that man in to be cornerback number one. Could we see Denver flip Riley Moss for a 3? Maybe take a corner somewhere in the back end of the draft and go into next year starting some combination of PS2, Chris Abrams Drain, or Jahdae Barron on the other side, J-Mac obviously in the slot. I think we live in a world where that can happen, ladies and gentlemen. I realistically could see Denver flipping Riley Moss. Although, again, they love that guy as well, and I do as well. But I certainly think that we are distinctly in kind of a spot where letting Riley go and getting some compensation back for him makes a lot of sense. I think him being a penalty magnet, certainly, well, that being his reputation anyways, certainly nullifies a bit of his value, because I think you could flip him for another 2 if he wasn't such a penalized player, or if that wasn't his reputation. I still think you could get a 3 out of him, and I guarantee George Paton is thinking that as well. And there's a chance, I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but there is a chance that Paton flips him for a 3, packs him with one of your 4th round picks and flips him for a 3. I think it's a distinct possibility here, folks, and then maybe you see him take another corner on day 3, where maybe with one of the comp picks, or maybe they find an undrafted guy they like. Whatever the case, I think it's an interesting idea. So to recap again, I think they go RB, wide receiver, tight end, O-line. I think an O-tackle gets taken at some point. Your linebacker, I definitely think they go safety, and then there's just kind of that floater spot where you don't really know what they could do, and that could be that quarter spot. I'm just saying, it lines up. It 100% lines up. But hey, if you enjoy what you saw here today, then I would greatly appreciate it if you were to like, sub, hype the video on mobile if you're able to, because it greatly helps me out in the YouTube algorithm. I am trying to grow this channel. I am damn passionate about the Broncos. I try to get a video up every week just when I can. And you know what? Hey, I will be streaming the NFL draft. We will be doing the first round on Thursday. And then if it doesn't start super late, or super early in the day, excuse me, we'll do day 2 as well with the Broncos pick. I feel kind of obligated to do day 2. And then we'll maybe sit through a little bit of day 3 as well and just kind of home in on the Broncos or some of these more interesting prospects. But at the very least, you'll be getting days 1 and 2 out of me. So with that being said, again, like and sub if you want to see more of that. Turn on notifications as well. Helps me out greatly in the algorithm. And with that being said, I will see you all in the next one. Miles out.